There comes a time in the life of every soul when waiting for the perfect moment becomes a luxury one can no longer afford. The world does not pause. The clock does not soften its tick for those who hesitate. To force yourself to take action is not an act of violence against your nature, but a profound act of love toward your destiny. It is the moment you rise, not because the road is clear, but because your purpose is fierce enough to burn through any fog of doubt or fear. This is the story of how you become the master of your own movement, how you honor your dreams with the sacred currency of effort, even when your spirit trembles. The necessity of will over waiting for motivation is a truth as old as time itself, yet one that many of us struggle to fully embrace. We live in a culture that often glorifies inspiration, as if waiting for that perfect surge of motivation is the key to unlocking our potential. We tell ourselves that when the stars align, when the mood strikes just right, when the energy fills our veins, then, and only then, will we act. But this waiting, this holding back in hopes of feeling ready, is the silent thief of dreams. Will is not a fleeting spark that arrives unbidden. It is a steady flame kindled by resolve and choice. It is the heartbeat of persistence, the quiet command to rise and move even when the soul is heavy and the spirit feels worn. Will demands of us a certain courage, the courage to begin when the conditions are less than ideal, the courage to push through the resistance that whispers, not now, maybe later, I'm too tired. To wait for motivation is to wait for permission from an unpredictable force, a force that may never come. But to will oneself into action is to take destiny by the hand, to say, I am more than my feelings, I am the master of my movement. It is a rebellion against passivity, a declaration that your dreams are too precious to be left to the mercy of moods and moments. When Will steps forward, it carries with it an unshakable belief in the power of action itself. It understands that motivation, while lovely and bright, is a visitor, not a resident. Will is the home where dreams live, fed by discipline, faith, and determination. It is the act of doing, not waiting to do. It is the deep knowing that even the smallest step, taken with intention, breaks the chains of inertia and moves the mountain inch by inch. In cultivating will, you begin to see yourself not as a passenger of circumstance, but as the captain of your ship. You learn that the seas of motivation may be stormy and unpredictable, but your will is the anchor that holds you steady, the rudder that guides you forward. It is the voice inside that says, today I will act, even when the heart is quiet, even when the mind protests. This necessity of will teaches us that greatness is not reserved for the inspired few, but is forged in the quiet, stubborn refusal to wait for feeling ready. It is in the deliberate choices made in the face of resistance that we begin to write the story of our becoming. And so the call is clear. Do not wait for the muse to arrive. Summon yourself instead, because the future belongs to those who act, not those who wait. Embracing discomfort as a doorway to growth is a profound and transformative truth that challenges the very core of our human nature, which often seeks comfort and ease above all else. Yet, it is within the realm of discomfort that life's most powerful lessons reside, quietly waiting to be discovered by those willing to face the unknown, to step beyond the familiar boundaries of safety and certainty. Discomfort is not an enemy to be feared or avoided. It is a wise teacher, a sacred threshold that beckons us to shed the old skins of complacency and limitation and to step into the vastness of our untapped potential. When we choose to lean into discomfort, we open ourselves to a new kind of strength, one forged not in ease but in the fire of challenge and struggle. To embrace discomfort is to recognize that growth does not happen in the calm harbor, but in the turbulent waters where the soul must stretch, strain, and learn to swim. It is to understand that every ache, every pang of uncertainty, every moment of resistance is a signpost pointing toward evolution. This discomfort calls us to become more than we were yesterday, inviting us to expand the edges of our being and to rewrite the narratives that have kept us small. It teaches patience, resilience, and courage, demanding that we hold space for ourselves even when the path is steep and the night is long. When discomfort arrives, it often comes cloaked in fear, doubt, and vulnerability, stirring the impulse to retreat, to hide, or to numb the pain. But to retreat is to deny the sacred invitation that discomfort offers, the chance to awaken dormant parts of ourselves and to transform obstacles into stepping stones. It is through facing discomfort head-on that we cultivate the muscle of endurance, that we learn to dance with uncertainty rather than flee from it. Each uncomfortable moment becomes a crucible in which our character is refined, our vision sharpened, and our spirit deepened. This embrace of discomfort also teaches us humility, reminding us that growth is a process, sometimes slow, sometimes painful, never neat or tidy. It asks us to be gentle with ourselves while holding firm to the commitment to move forward, even when progress is invisible to the naked eye. Discomfort is the soil in which the seeds of greatness take root, and it is only by planting ourselves firmly in this soil that we can bloom into the fullness of our purpose and power. To walk through discomfort is to declare to the world and to ourselves that we are willing to pay the price of transformation, to endure the temporary struggle for the sake of lasting freedom. It is the courageous act of saying, I will not be defined by ease or fear, but by my willingness to grow beyond them. In this sacred dance with discomfort, we learn to trust not in the absence of pain, but in the presence of our own resilience and the unfolding of our highest self. The power of small, consistent steps is a force often underestimated in a world that celebrates grand gestures and overnight success. Yet it is in these humble, deliberate movements that the true magic of transformation unfolds. Each small step, though it may seem insignificant on its own, becomes a thread in the fabric of progress, weaving together to create a tapestry of achievement that no single leap could ever accomplish. There is a sacred rhythm in these steady actions, a quiet but relentless momentum that carries us forward, even when the road ahead feels long and the destination distant. Small steps teach us patience, grounding us in the present moment and reminding us that greatness is not birthed in haste, but nurtured over time. They are the whispers of commitment, the daily affirmations that we are willing to show up for ourselves again and again, no matter how modest the effort. In a culture that often demands immediate results, these small, consistent steps are acts of radical faith. Faith that progress is cumulative, that the steady drip of water can carve through stone, and that persistent effort can move mountains. There is also a profound humility in embracing small steps, a recognition that the journey of growth is not always dramatic or visible to the outside eye. This humility invites us to value process over perfection, to celebrate the quiet victories that build the foundation for lasting change. Each small step taken is a victory over inertia, a refusal to be paralyzed by fear, doubt, or the overwhelming nature of the larger goal. It is a declaration that no matter how daunting the mountain, the first step is always within reach, and the next, and the next. Consistency is the secret alchemy that turns these small steps into transformative power. It is the daily, repeated choice to move forward, to press on even when motivation wanes, when the world grows heavy, or when progress seems invisible. This steadfast dedication creates momentum that fuels itself, generating a force that eventually becomes unstoppable. It is in the constancy of these actions that we build discipline, resilience, and a deep trust in the unfolding of our own journey. Moreover, small, consistent steps invite us to break down our dreams and aspirations into manageable pieces, making the impossible approachable and the overwhelming achievable. They provide a roadmap through uncertainty, a way to navigate the unknown by focusing on what we can do today rather than what we fear might be impossible tomorrow. In doing so, they transform anxiety into action, doubt into determination, and hesitation into forward motion. The power of small, consistent steps is also a lesson in self-compassion, for it recognizes that we are human, subject to fluctuation and fatigue, and that progress need not be perfect to be profound. These steps honor the ebb and flow of energy and emotion, allowing us to move at a sustainable pace while keeping our eyes fixed on the horizon. They are the steady heartbeat of transformation, the pulse that carries us through struggle and triumph alike, reminding us that every journey, no matter how grand, is composed of these seemingly small but infinitely powerful moments. Overcoming fear by moving any way is one of the most courageous acts a soul can undertake, a quiet rebellion against the voice inside that whispers doubt, hesitation, and retreat. Fear is an ancient guardian rooted deep within us, designed to protect and preserve life, yet often it becomes a prison that shackles us from the very growth and freedom we seek. To overcome fear is not to deny its presence or to wait for its absence, but to acknowledge it fully, and then, in spite of its weight, to step forward with deliberate motion. It is the powerful act of defiance that says, "I see you, fear, and still I will move." This movement in the face of fear is not reckless or blind. It is measured, intentional, and born of an inner knowing that waiting for fear to dissipate is a trap that leads only to stagnation. Fear will never fully vanish. It will linger in shadows and in whispers, but the act of moving anyway shrinks its power, softens its grip, and rewrites the narrative of what is possible. Every step taken, despite trembling knees or a pounding heart, is a testament to the human spirit's resilience, a declaration that courage is not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. To move anyway is to trust in something greater than the fear itself, whether that is faith, purpose, or the sheer necessity of progress. It calls us to step out of the safety of waiting rooms and into the wild terrain of action where growth and transformation dwell. This movement transforms fear from a barrier into a companion, a signpost that points toward what matters most, urging us to lean in rather than recoil. It teaches us that the body's trembling can coexist with the mind's clarity and the heart's fierce determination. There is also a profound liberation in moving through fear, a release that comes from reclaiming agency in moments that once felt paralyzing. With each step, the shadows recede and the horizon expands, revealing new landscapes of possibility previously hidden by the fog of doubt. This act cultivates a deep well of courage that grows stronger over time, creating a momentum that carries us through future storms with greater grace and confidence. Moreover, moving anyway is an act of self-love and respect, a refusal to allow fear to dictate the terms of our lives. It is an embrace of imperfection, knowing that the journey will be marked by stumbles and setbacks, yet choosing to rise again and again. This movement cultivates resilience, teaching us that bravery is a practice, a muscle to be strengthened with each act of defiance against the instinct to hide. In the dance with fear, to move anyway is to become a warrior of the soul, wielding courage not as a grand gesture, but as a series of small, persistent acts that accumulate into a life lived fully and freely. It is the sacred choice to honor the fear, but not be owned by it, to chart a course through uncertainty with steady feet and an unshakable heart. And in this sacred movement, fear loses its dominion, and we find ourselves on the path of true freedom and growth. Reclaiming control through deliberate choice is a profound act of awakening, a moment when the soul rises from the fog of circumstance and asserts its sovereign power over the direction of its own life. It is the realization that while we may not command every event that unfolds around us, we hold within our hands the sacred ability to choose our response, to shape our reality through the conscious decisions we make. This reclaiming is not born out of denial or illusion, but out of a deep recognition that control is less about external mastery and more about internal authority. A quiet, steady command over the mind, heart, and will. When we embrace deliberate choice, we step out from the role of passive bystander and claim the mantle of active creator. Each decision, no matter how small, becomes a declaration of independence from the chaos, fear, or confusion that may seek to overwhelm us. It is through these choices that we stitch together the fabric of our destiny, weaving threads of intention, purpose, and self-determination into the tapestry of our lives. This is a reclamation of power that does not scream or demand, but rather whispers with unwavering clarity, "I am the author of my story." Deliberate choice invites us to pause in the whirlwind of life's demands, to breathe deeply, and to sift through the noise and distraction to find the voice of our true selves. It teaches us the sacred art of discernment, where impulse is tempered by wisdom and reaction gives way to response. This practice of mindful decision-making is a fortress against the storms of doubt and despair, providing a steady anchor that keeps us aligned with our highest values and deepest truths. Moreover, reclaiming control through deliberate choice is an act of profound self-respect and self-love. It honors the inherent dignity of the individual, recognizing that though external forces may press upon us, the inner realm remains a sanctuary where freedom reigns. This freedom is not granted by circumstance, but seized through the courageous act of choosing to rise, to stand firm, to move forward with intention, even when the path is uncertain or fraught with challenge. In this reclamation, there is also a call to responsibility, a solemn acknowledgement that with every choice comes the shaping of consequence and legacy. It is not a burden, but a sacred trust, an invitation to live with integrity and authenticity, to let each deliberate act become a testament to the power of the human spirit, to transcend limitation and craft a life of meaning and purpose. This process of reclaiming control is ongoing, a continual turning inward to check our compass and realign with the vision that stirs our soul. It is a dance between surrender and assertion, between humility before life's mysteries and the boldness to steer our course with clarity and conviction. Through deliberate choice, we learn that true control is not about domination, but about harmony, an elegant balance of power exercised with grace, wisdom, and unwavering commitment to our own becoming. The discipline of commitment beyond feelings is a sacred and formidable practice that calls upon the deepest reserves of human strength and resolve. It is the art of standing steadfast in one's purpose, not only when the heart sings with passion or when the winds of emotion blow favorably, but especially when doubt, fatigue, or despair settle in like a heavy fog. This discipline teaches us that commitment is not the fragile blossom that wilts in the face of discomfort, but rather the sturdy oak that roots itself deep in the soil of intention and remains unmoved by passing storms. To commit beyond feelings is to recognize that emotions are transient guests in the vast house of our will. They come and go, swelling with the tides of circumstance, but true commitment is anchored beyond these fluctuations, residing in the quiet chambers of choice and perseverance. It is an act of courage to rise each day and honor a promise made to oneself, even when the fire of enthusiasm has dimmed or when the path seems uncertain and arduous. This discipline is a testament to the power of human agency, the ability to persist not because we feel like it, but because we have decided it is necessary and right. This kind of commitment is forged in the crucible of experience, where the seductive allure of comfort battles against the call of growth. It requires a steadfast heart that does not seek constant reassurance or easy victories, but finds strength in the very act of showing up repeatedly, even in the absence of emotional reward. Here lies a profound wisdom that success, transformation, and fulfillment are not the products of fleeting feelings, but the fruits born of sustained effort and unwavering dedication. Moreover, commitment beyond feelings teaches us humility and patience. It invites us to trust the unseen process, to believe in the slow unfolding of our aspirations, even when the immediate results elude us. It is the quiet refusal to surrender to discouragement, the gentle insistence that progress often hides beneath the surface, growing in the invisible soil of routine and discipline. Through this lens, commitment becomes not a burden, but a sacred dance, a daily act of honoring our highest intentions regardless of the emotional weather. In practicing this discipline, we also cultivate resilience and integrity. We learn that our word to ourselves is a powerful covenant, a beacon of self-respect that guides us through trials and triumphs alike. This integrity becomes a foundation upon which character is built, a silent force that shapes how we face adversity and embrace responsibility. To commit beyond feelings is to claim sovereignty over one's life, refusing to be tossed about by the seas of emotion, and instead steering with steady hands toward the horizon of our purpose. This unwavering commitment also nurtures faith in oneself, in the journey, and in the eventual blossoming of our efforts. It whispers that even in moments of doubt and despair, the seeds we plant through our persistence will one day flower. It reminds us that true mastery and fulfillment are less about the ease of the path and more about the courage to walk it consistently, with discipline as our faithful companion and commitment as the guiding star. Action ignites momentum and courage in a way that is both primal and transformative, a spark that lights the kindling of possibility and sets ablaze the fire of progress within the human spirit. It is in the very act of moving forward, no matter how small or uncertain, that we break the chains of inertia and open the door to new realms of confidence and strength. Action is the sacred pulse that turns intention into reality, the vital current that carries us from the realm of thought and fear into the expansive landscape of experience and growth. Without action, even the most fervent desire remains a whisper, a dream suspended in the ether. With action, it becomes a declaration, a force that reshapes the contours of our existence. When we choose to act, especially in the face of uncertainty or fear, we step into a sacred dance with courage itself. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to proceed despite it, and action is the first bold step that transforms this willingness into tangible movement. Each deliberate step forward feeds a growing energy, a momentum that gathers strength with every motion, pushing us further from the paralysis of doubt and closer to the unfolding of our potential. This momentum is a powerful ally, for it carries us through moments of hesitation and doubt, sustaining us when the initial spark of motivation begins to wane. It reminds us that courage is cultivated in motion, a muscle strengthened by repeated acts of bravery, however humble they may seem. Moreover, action transforms the landscape of our inner world. It reshapes our self-perception, turning the abstract "I wish" into the concrete "I did." This transformation breeds confidence, for there is no greater proof of one's capacity than the evidence of having acted. Each success, no matter how small, is a building block in the architecture of self-belief. Even setbacks become lessons, fertile soil for growth rather than insurmountable walls. The very process of doing dissolves the imagined limits we place upon ourselves, revealing a reservoir of strength that was always present but dormant, waiting to be awakened by the simple yet profound choice to move. Action also creates a feedback loop with our emotions and mind. As we act, we often find that fear and hesitation diminish, replaced by a growing sense of mastery and control. This shift in internal landscape fosters a positive cycle where courage fuels further action, and action, in turn, strengthens courage. It is a dynamic interplay, a rhythm of becoming where the smallest steps can culminate in profound transformation. This is why waiting for the perfect moment or the absence of fear is often a guise for inaction. Because the true magic lies in beginning despite imperfection and uncertainty. Furthermore, action commands attention from the universe itself, aligning unseen forces in our favor. It signals commitment, clarity, and readiness, creating ripples that attract opportunities, allies, and resources. In this sense, action is not merely a personal endeavor, but a cosmic dialogue, a way we co-create with life's unfolding mystery. It is through the very doing that the path reveals itself, as if each step taken illuminates the next, carving a trail through the wilderness of doubt and hesitation. Thus, action is more than movement. It is the birthright of the soul yearning to manifest, the sacred rite through which dreams take flesh and courage finds its voice. It ignites momentum not by force, but by the gentle, persistent rhythm of engagement with life, a rhythm that calls us to rise, to step forth, and to claim the power that lies dormant within until stirred by the courage to act. The role of self-talk in pushing forward is a profound and often overlooked force that shapes the very fabric of our motivation, resilience, and capacity to persevere. It is the quiet dialogue that unfolds within the sanctuary of our minds, the steady voice that either uplifts or undermines, that either kindles the flame of determination or allows it to flicker and fade. Self-talk is the language of the soul speaking to itself, the narrative we choose to believe about our worth, our ability, and our destiny. In this sacred conversation lies the power to propel us forward, to transform hesitation into action and despair into hope. When we engage in positive, affirming self-talk, we are essentially becoming our own champions, our own trusted guides through the wilderness of challenge and uncertainty. This inner speech becomes a source of strength, a reservoir from which we draw courage in moments of doubt. It reminds us of our capacity to overcome, to rise above circumstance, and to continue the journey despite obstacles. Such self-talk is not mere cheerleading, it is a deliberate and mindful reframing of experience that shifts perspective and opens the heart to possibility. It nurtures a mindset that views setbacks not as defeat, but as lessons, as stepping stones on the path of growth. Conversely, negative self-talk acts like a relentless critic, a shadow that dims the light of potential and sows seeds of fear and hesitation. This internal dialogue can be corrosive, eroding confidence and instilling a sense of powerlessness. But even here, the awareness of self-talk's influence offers a doorway to transformation. By recognizing and consciously altering these narratives, we reclaim sovereignty over our inner world and thereby over our actions. The practice of cultivating compassionate, encouraging self-talk becomes an act of radical self-love and defiance against the voices of doubt and limitation. Moreover, self-talk is intimately connected to our emotions and physical state. The words we speak to ourselves shape our mood and energy, influencing the biochemical and neurological patterns that govern our readiness to act. Positive self-talk can invigorate the spirit, energizing us to move forward with clarity and determination, while negative self-talk can entrench us in stagnation and despair. This connection highlights the holistic nature of self-talk as a bridge between mind, body, and spirit that orchestrates the harmony or discord within. Self-talk also plays a critical role in shaping our habits and long-term patterns of behavior. It is the quiet coach whispering guidance during moments of choice, encouraging perseverance when the road grows steep, and reminding us of the vision that ignited our journey. Through repetition and consistency, these internal messages embed themselves deeply into our subconscious, influencing not just isolated moments, but the trajectory of our lives. The cultivation of empowering self-talk is, therefore, an essential discipline in the mastery of self and the fulfillment of potential. In the face of adversity, self-talk becomes a lifeline, a beacon of light that guides us back to our center and our purpose. It reminds us that the power to push forward resides not solely in external circumstances or grand gestures, but in the gentle yet resolute language we use within. This internal dialogue is where true transformation begins, where the seeds of courage and resilience are sown, watered by words that affirm our strength, our worth, and our unyielding capacity to rise and continue. Creation, a deliberate shaping of the daily rhythms that carry us steadily toward our highest aspirations. Habits are the unseen architects of our lives, the quiet forces that build the foundation upon which our dreams stand or crumble. When we cultivate habits rooted in intention and consistency, we harness a power far greater than fleeting bursts of motivation. These habits become the steady heartbeat of progress, the reliable pulse that moves us forward even when enthusiasm wanes or obstacles arise. The process of creating such habits demands patience and reverence, for it is not a race, but a sacred unfolding. It requires us to recognize that greatness is rarely born in sudden leaps, but in the gentle, persistent repetition of small acts performed with care and purpose. Each habit is a thread woven into the fabric of our character, a silent promise we make to ourselves that we will honor our journey with disciplined attention. These habits serve as a compass, guiding us through the distractions and challenges that seek to derail our course. They are the anchors that hold us steady when storms of doubt and fatigue threaten to uproot our resolve. Moreover, habits that enforce progress are built not just on action, but on awareness. They arise from the conscious choice to align our daily behaviors with the vision of who we want to become. This alignment transforms ordinary routines into sacred rituals, imbuing each moment with meaning and intention. As these habits take root, they cultivate a fertile inner landscape where growth is not left to chance, but is carefully tended and nurtured. The momentum gained from consistent habits is a powerful current that carries us beyond resistance and into the realm of sustained achievement. The creation of these habits also involves an intimate understanding of our own rhythms and limits. It calls for kindness and flexibility, recognizing that progress is not linear and that setbacks are part of the sacred dance of growth. In this light, habits are not chains of obligation, but invitations to engage lovingly with ourselves and our potential. They encourage resilience, for when the heart falters or the spirit tires, it is these well-worn pathways of action that provide the way forward. Through habits, we learn to trust the process, knowing that steady effort, repeated day by day, weaves a tapestry of transformation that no single moment of willpower can achieve alone. Furthermore, habits create a sanctuary of discipline in a world that often glorifies distraction and immediacy. They protect our dreams from the erosion of inconsistency and cultivate a mindset of long-term commitment. By anchoring our intentions in daily practice, habits become the invisible scaffolding that supports our climb toward excellence and fulfillment. They teach us that progress is not about perfection, but about persistence, about showing up for ourselves again and again, even when the path is steep and the rewards seem distant. In nurturing these habits, we also shape our identity and belief system. Each act of consistency sends a message to our subconscious mind, affirming our worthiness and capacity to grow. Over time, these messages accumulate, transforming how we see ourselves and what we believe is possible. Habits then become more than routines. They become declarations of self-respect and visions made manifest through daily action. They are the living proof that greatness is not a gift bestowed, but a practice earned, a sacred journey walked one step, one habit, one moment at a time. Celebrating progress over perfection is an act of profound liberation, a gentle rebellion against the harsh tyranny of impossible standards that so often bind the human spirit. It is a conscious choice to honor the journey, the small victories, the incremental steps, the quiet courage displayed in moments that go unseen by the world but are deeply felt within the soul. To celebrate progress is to acknowledge that growth is a sacred unfolding, not a sudden arrival, and that each step forward, no matter how modest, carries within it the seed of transformation. This celebration shifts the gaze from what is lacking to what has been gained, from the weight of what remains unfinished to the lightness of what has been achieved. In a culture that often demands flawless outcomes and instant success, choosing to